He certainly has had a long day, but also a long few weeks up until this point. The Finance Minister Enoch Godongwana today being able to see 194 yeses to that budget, and he joins us now this evening. Minister, good evening to you. Thank you so much for giving us your time after what has been quite a lengthy day. But just now in the evening, as we reflect on the day that was, you do have this media advisory coming from the Democratic Alliance. Tomorrow, Minister, they're heading to the High Court to file papers where they say, and that, right, I'm reading from it now, among other things, they're going to challenge, among other things, Parliament's passing of the budget fiscal framework, and they've called it, the top there, challenging the past VAT budget. Reaction to that, just as we start our conversation, Minister, that now legal processes and steps that are set to be taken by the Democratic Alliance, is that concerning for you, Minister?
Look, the Democratic Alliance has got every right, like every citizen or organization, to take legal action in what it perceived to be an unfair decision. Is that democratic right? There's nothing I can say about that. I don't know at the moment whether that action is against Parliament or is against the National Treasury. It's just I'm hearing it now for the first time. So all I can say is that democratic right, and the relevant institutions will have to go and defend it.
Yeah, a lot of the concerns that have been raised, of course, by the Democratic Alliance has been really procedural flaws that they have raised. So let's assume, and if we were to throw the bones here, Minister, and say, well, down the line, the DA is able to have success in the courts as they raise that, does that mean anything for the budget that we saw passed today?
Look, I don't know what purpose will it serve. What purpose will it serve? Because I don't know what exactly are they challenging. The Speaker responded to that in Parliament in terms of her legal advice. Let's assume for a moment that the court were to rule in their favor, would rerun the process. It would actually probably lead to the same equation and to the same result. All they will be doing is just be disruptive into the budget process. I don't see any, because court can't say Parliament can't vote for the budget. The court can say if there is indeed a defect in the process, says the Parliament go and show that and then proceed. So I don't know. There's no way Parliament can say, and then the court can say, we can't tax. That matter falls within the executive, and later within the legislative arm to endorse it. So I don't see the court making a decision that you can't tax. The court can make a decision in terms of the procedural fairness, and we're more than happy to deal with that.
There is, of course, the question, and I think that at the end of today, you know, you've got 60 million South Africans that really top of mind is just what this all means for that 0.5 percentage point VAT. And the reason why I ask for the clarity, Minister, is where the conversations perhaps were happening between the ANC and other political parties in the run-up to this budget vote. What exactly was put on the table in your understanding of what happens as of May this year where that VAT hike is concerned? For instance, you have the Action SA that says they voted to pass the budget, but they're still not in support of the VAT hike. So for the clarity of South Africans, will we see as of March this year that 0.5 percentage point hike?
Let me just say, Action SA, as distinct to other parties, has said to us, we don't think that that's the only revenue source that should be looked into to achieve the same objective, say, of in case of VAT of 13.5 billion rand. We think there are other alternatives which could be explored to achieve the same objective. Surely we're open to such a conversation, and that's what we've actually undertaken to the action essay, that let's explore those avenues. And that exploration is not excluding any other parties which have got a similar view. So that's a process we'll be engaging with all other parties moving forward.
And what would that process look like, Minister?
I mean, let me just give you an example. Bosa says to me, there's an institution which has been given 20 billion rand. Its expenditure track record is such that they can only spend 5 billion. Why don't you take the 15 billion from that institution? I'm not going to name the institution now because the numbers, that's a contribution to the debate, is something we need to explore. So there will be other people who come with different proposals and that says, look, there's this expenditure on this item. We think that is inefficient. If we were to close this program, it will give you this amount. But the question is, we must ask the question, assuming we agree with them, how long will we achieve that objective? It may well be that that's something that can be achieved in the next financial year. So those are robust discussions we want to entertain with all the different political parties in terms of their proposal, subject their proposal to test and scrutiny.
Do you, Minister, see opportunity where in this week we heard news from the South African Revenue Services that they've seen a record gross amount of 2.3 trillion rand, representing growth of 6.9%. And so if we see an increase in SARS revenue collection, does that give you some solace? And is there hope that could bring some VAT reprieve in the future?
In the budget speech, I said, any changes in the revenue outlook will impact on how we see the tax our tax proposal in moving forward. For instance, we said, given the fact that we have said we're going to increase VAT, 0.5% this year, 0.5% next year, it may well be that we're only going to increase 0.5% this year. We're not going to proceed to increase next year. And 99% chance are that we may not, given the revenue outlook. So yes, we will continue to review the revenue outlook and its implications and what tax relief we can provide to taxpayers. We're not doing this thing because we like taxing people. Our preferred option is to ensure that there's less tax burden on South African citizens. But there are things which militate against that. An example, the stagnant growth, the increase in the quality of in the price of services that we provide for our citizens, and the increasing news expenditure priorities. All of those things militate against an immediate tax relief, but would like to achieve that objectives in longer term.
Well, we continue our conversation with Finance Minister Enoch Godongwana, joining us via video link. Minister, that last question before we went into the break, your thoughts on GNU partners that are against the budget being tasked with implementing it, and you'd started that thought there.
I was saying the government of national unity is formed by political parties who have got to evaluate the performance of the GNU in the light of what's happening now. That's for them to make that judgment call. But at a personal level, I'm of the view that it's going to be difficult to work with a party which right through this budget process has been more disruptive than cooperative. And moving forward, it's going to be difficult to work with them in the implementation of the budget, and they never support it. So I think the political parties that are in the government of national unity have got to make the judgment call. In my view, if they, in their wisdom, decide that no, it's worth pursuing, I'll live with that decision.
And so I'm keen to hear, just as we wrap up, Minister, this for me, what you reflect on, you know, as we've gotten to this point that we've seen the budget passed, on how we got here, with all the back and forth that has certainly taken place when you table the budget next year. You know, one of the experts that we spoke to just moments ago saying top of mind for the minister right now should be how he ensures that he doesn't find himself in this position in February 2026. Is there, you know, some reflection on how transparent the process was, that the 2% could have been discussed much earlier with the GNU partners, with political parties?
No. The 2% in particular was discussed with the two major political parties, including the DA. Let me take a step back. On the 4th of February, I tabled a budget proposal to the government, to the cabinet, in which I demonstrated that 112 billion rand will not be funded over the medium term. So in that same meeting, I put forward various alternatives, and I excluded in that proposal both the income tax and the company tax, and I said our thinking is towards VAT. I didn't put the number. On the 7th, I met the officials of the DA and said, this is my thinking. They then said, no, we have lost a number of battles with the Bella Act, NHI, Expropriation Act. Therefore, we cannot accept tax increase, which has got nothing to do with the budget. I'm just giving you. And throughout the process, they've then demanded any tax increase, whether it's 0.5% as we've arrived now, in exchange for concession on those issues, which are outside the control of the Minister of Finance. If we were to discuss with them the 0.5% in line with the numbers and changes, without excluding those things which are outside the budget, we probably would have found each other. Fast forward, after the failed postponement of the 19th, the president put forward a small committee chaired by the deputy president. In that committee, we generated 5 proposals or options. Option 1 was a DA proposal, which says we must not provide for tax relief, income tax relief, and they came up with a figure. And they said we must not provide for medical tax relief, and then they said we must increase the fuel levy. We have not increased the fuel levy, but the bulk of their proposals, we've accommodated them, but added a 0.5% and moved from 2% and added a 0.5% because we wanted a specific figure. Now they come and reject everything, including what was their original proposal. How do you deal with people like that?
And so you would agree with the president in the leaked audio when he says that the Democratic Alliance has found itself in a cul-de-sac. I mean, he's heard in the leaked audio saying, I told John Steenhuisen, and of course I'm paraphrasing, that you brought yourself to this point.
I cannot comment about on a leaked video at the moment. I'm just expressing my personal views. And National Executive of the ANC will have to make the judgment call at appropriate time.
Yeah. Minister, we do appreciate the time that you've given us after what has been an incredibly busy day for you. Thank you so much for speaking to us. Finance Minister Enoch Godongwana speaking to us there. That's right here on Newsfeed PM, the late edition. And of course, we've got some WhatsApps as well that have come in on the developments today. 194 yeses in the National Assembly for the Finance Minister's budget. 072-110-5584 to also share your views with us. That's our WhatsApp number at the bottom of on the screen. In fact, take a picture of it, save it on your phone. Then whenever we have a discussion at 8 o'clock, you're more than welcome to partake in it. And see some of those WhatsApp from Njotini. He or she says, the ANC doesn't want to account. That's why it targeted the desperate small parties to vote with them. Another WhatsApp says, I'm Vusi from Standerton in Mpumalanga province. My question to the minister will be to tell us, the nation, that within the 30 days of this financial framework adopted today, what will happen to the 0.5 percentage point VAT hike agreed upon. If another source of funding is not secured, what will happen to the agreement reached with those parties who voted yes with the ANC? Okay. Anonymous says, good evening, Naledi. Please ask the minister when we're going to get relief on food prices. It's going up and up and up. How can we cope? Nechi says, evening. It's very good and important to pass the budget. Those who were against it were not fair to the poor. Youth opportunities, police opportunities, education, health and more. Keep up the good work of passing the budget. Mike says the 182 opposition parties who voted against the budget represented nothing of the poor except their fear of being highly taxed due to their flashy lifestyle. All right, we can keep those WhatsApps coming in on 072 110 5584. And of course, we'll continue taking calls as well, but that'll be tomorrow as we've closed off that discussion. But thank you so much for participating. We'll take a short break. We do have your headlines at the top of the hour. Stay with us.